What's good, YouTube? It's been a minute. I know I haven't been on YouTube in a long time. Yeah, you see a girl in a beard. Well, what's good, guys? Your boy Nerd I Am with a new episode of Nerd Talk. Today we're talking about Anime Week in Atlanta versus Momo Con. Today I have with me is Brianna. Say hey to the people, Brianna.
Hi.
I have Chris. Say hey to the people.
So I'm Darth Cuba on YouTube. I talk about video games, and I'm like so spectacular, and I'm better than PewDiePie. So suck it, nerds.
Then I also have my partner in crime, Timotheus. Tell the people what's up.
What's up, everyone? I'm your neighborhood photographer.
All right, Spider-Man.
And now it's time for a sponsor break.
All right, guys. MomoCon versus Anime Weekend in Atlanta. Okay. Now, here's the history behind both cons. Anime Weekend in Atlanta has been going on for what? Almost 21 years. And MomoCon is what? 15, 16, if I'm not mistaken? Well, MomoCon is the offspring of Anime Weekend in Atlanta. But now in the past couple of years, MomoCon is getting pretty big. You know, they are getting, more attendees, more vendors, and better guests. But I want to know which con is going to be the top anime con, MomoCon or Anime Weekend in Atlanta. All right, first off, we're going to start with the new people. We'll start with Brianna. What do you think?
Anime Week in Atlanta was my first convention. That was back in 2008, something like that. Yes, and yes, there are things that maybe MomoCon does better than Anime Week in Atlanta, but I personally believe that I enjoy AWA more than MomoCon. I've had a lot more issues with MomoCon than I had with AWA. So, I don't know. That's just me personally.
Okay.
But
all right.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris?
You got time?
I got plenty of time.
All right. I've been going to conventions since 2005. AWA was my first convention. The first time I walked into those halls, I was blinded by its majesty. It was fantastic. When I first heard about an anime-type convention, I was like, they got things like this? I want to go. The first MomoCon I went to, I don't remember what year it was, but it was back when it was on Georgia Tech campus and it was free. And it was fun. But eventually it started to get kind of boring because I was like, I want to do something different. So the second year before they moved, I started volunteering. I've done miscellaneous stuff. I've done security for MomoCon. I've seen everything behind the scenes. Once they moved to pay hotels, I felt like it was starting to get better, and it started to get bigger. And depending who you want to ask what's better, it all comes down to opinion, because my opinion is MomoCon's way better. MomoCon it's getting better guests, it's getting bigger, it's moving around, it wants more people to come. AWA, while it's still in a big, spacious hotel, it still gets a lot of people to go. They have the same old things, and they're not willing to really change anything.
Okay. All right, I like that. All right, Timotheus, give me your speech.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I won't keep it too long though, but I've been volunteering both at MomoCon and AWA for the past couple of years, and honestly, it depends. If we talk about volunteering opportunities, I love volunteering at both, but if I had to choose, I'd rather choose MomoCon simply because they have the photography section and also you're able to do more things. Now, AWA, I love it too because it's not only as well established, but also you get the strong connections there as far as like the field you want to be in eventually.
Yeah.
That's what I like about AWA, but as far as like pure volunteer experience, I always go with MomoCon. And also, but as like a regular Congo or photographer, yes, I agree that MomoCon is getting bigger, and I even believe that eventually MomoCon will be like the second biggest anime in Atlanta next to Dragon Con, and AWA will eventually be third. But as far as, but here's the thing, the reason why I still love AWA, a lot of stories come out of AWA every single year. Fire pulled and all sorts of stuff. That the crazy dances, etc. Something about AWA that's memorable each and every time.
Okay. All right. Now, I think I should share my experience about AWA versus MomoCon. Okay. Before my viewers get mad. Okay. Yes, I've never been to MomoCon, but I had done my research. Okay. Anime Week in Atlanta is was my very first con. I went back in 2010. Enjoyed. I've been going for the past 5 years, but you know, I love the people there. Um, the hotel where it hosted at, I like it. The guests they have, uh, it's just been like up and down. I think the best out of my 5 years, the best guest they probably had was Laura Bailey, the voice of Kid Trunks and etc. She did plenty of voice acting, and also Johnny Young Bosch, one who played Adam, the Black Power Ranger for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and the Green Zero Ranger, and also he did the voice of Ichigo. But you know, like the guests they get them guests from Japan, but the thing about it is they not that up there in the celebrity range. Like unlike MomoCon, they getting people who played in movies, still working in movies. Like what's the guy's name who played trying to get his name right? Soko from I think it's Soko, pronounced Soko from Avatar. You know what I'm talking about? Soko. He played in Hook. Rufio. I can't remember his name.
Oh, I can't think of him. I know you're talking about. I can't think of him.
Yeah, they get like a lot of people, like famous people. This year, Steve Bloom is gonna be there. Steve Bloom is like, hell, he's like the king of voice acting. He's
Steve
gonna
Blum
be
was
there.
there last year, and well, not last year, the year before, in 2013.
Yeah, like,
Dante Bosco. It was Dante Bosco.
He goes
they
there
get people,
regularly, I believe.
but they get people, like they get like paid people to be at this con. And like another thing that Chris mentioned, like it's getting bigger, and they moved to a bigger place. This year is at the CNN Center, and I think it's bigger than the Renaissance, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It is.
And like I'm like in AWA, you're getting big, but you're not getting bigger. I think y'all probably gain like what probably 1,000 people each year. Well, as MomoCon, they gain probably like 10 times that.
I
The
don't.
numbers I heard recently, AWA I think had like 21,000 people this year, and MomoCon had 12 to 15,000 people this year.
Yeah, it's like MomoCon is like right now is just basically taking off. They started slow and they caught up and passed Anime Week in Atlanta. I'm not trying to down talk Anime Week in Atlanta. I'm just saying MomoCon is stepping their game up. They really
I
are.
I honestly think that I don't think MomoCon has a contract like Dragon Con does. Dragon Con has a contract with the hotel that they're at, so they have to stay there. So, and then I don't know it, but I think if AWA is staying where they've been at for the past 20 years, then they may have a contract with that, and eventually they're going to have to move. It's not moving as fast as people would want it to, but it's getting bigger. I promise you, it really is. And they have their guests. They're getting a lot of great guests. Like they're getting Reika You know, everyone's super excited about having Reika for next year because she's such a huge cosplayer. She's such an influential cosplayer. And you had Homei Kazuku in 2000 for this year, and you know they're getting a lot of bands and stuff like that, and singers that you normally wouldn't see at a convention. So, I mean, there's really pros and you can't really judge a convention. You can't judge them together. One might have some weaknesses, and the other one might have strengths, and than the other. So it just really all depends on your experience in between two conventions. AWA is a really great con. They put in a lot of effort and work to make things work that the way they do. Sure, there were some situations where it's just like we probably could have worked on it just a little bit better, but MomoCon, I went to it when it was still free. Um, that when I was still at Georgia Tech, I didn't have a very comfortable experience because the venue was so tiny. That was the first time I went. The second time I went was when they were at the Marquee. The Marquee was extremely disorganized. They had it was confusing, and they had a really hard time organizing everything. I stood in line for 2 hours to go see Steve Bloom on Sunday, and they cut off right before you got in line for like you know branching it off into like the little squiggly thing.
Hmm.
So they did that for a lot of people, and they didn't do a very good job with separating the artist alley and the dealer's room downstairs. So those were my experiences. I think MomoCon might be trying to grow too fast, trying to compete with other conventions like DragonCon and AWA, but at the same time, I do believe that since they don't really have a contract with anyone, they do have the right to move where they want to. But at the same time, I still believe that they're trying to move way too fast for what they're trying to do.
Okay, Chris, I'm gonna ask you the question. She just do you think MomoCon is moving too fast?
It's not about moving too fast. It's about its basic. I want to say economics. I think that's the word I'm looking for. My mind drew a blank there. It's supply and demand. What the people want is what people need, and even regardless of Dragon Con having a contract or not, Dragon Con, I believe this year had over 80,000 people.
Hmm.
So even if they didn't have a contract, where else are they going to have all those people? They're going to have those chains of hotels. The thing
I
is with MomoCon, they're trying to branch out from anime, which is fine. But how I saw it this year is they're getting more. They got more comic books, and they've always had video games. I originally said like they're just trying to be like Dragon Con, which isn't a bad thing. Me personally, I hate Dragon Con. It's too damn big.
I can't handle Dragon Con either. Like, as Party Con, I can't handle going to a convention that you're just gonna party in costume. I can't do that.
I don't mind partying, man.
Expensive con.
I
Expensive
got
con. That's what I call it.
stories. I
Okay.
got in MomoCon party stories. I don't mind the party. The problem is it's just too big.
Okay. All right. My
Yeah,
next
it's
question.
suffocating. Dragon Con is really suffocating because of how big it is, and from the pictures that I saw, because I've never gone to Dragon Con, so this is just from what I've seen. I've seen that it's basically the downstairs where you can hang out is like extremely packed, and it looks suffocating. And so, oh no, it might be a good convention for some people, but for me, I just can't do it.
Okay. All right. My next question. Okay. Do you think? All right. Do you really think Anime Weekend Atlanta they try their best to go cheap, real cheap? As in, like, they trying to save money. I
Mm-mm,
don't know, not save money. Well, they trying to put money in their pockets, more money in their pockets,
mm-mm,
than worry
mm-mm,
about the fans.
mm-mm.
Well,
This past year, I was sitting down with a group of friends at the table, and we were sitting there just talking about cons, and one of them mentioned that in the past 2 years, if you think about it, they they've jumped the prices up for the tickets, but we still getting
I
shitty stuff. We
okay.
get shittier stuff.
Here's the thing. For conventions, for AWA, they had a lot of outdated equipment, and conventions are not cheap. They cost a lot of money to run. You have to pay for the hotel for you to be able to run the convention there. You have to pay for the equipment. You have to pay for the guests. You have to, and pay for a lot of other things. And so, which is why prices rise every year for conventions, is because they have to pay for outdated equipment. They have to, and pay for all kinds of other things. So, yes, I believe that AWA is, from where they are sitting right now, the prices that they have right now are not that bad. There are conventions that pay a lot more, and you get mediocre, uh, stuff, but they get a lot of pricey, what's the word, guests and stuff. So, and they had to raise up the prices to be able to pay for all of that, and like I said, conventions are really, really not that cheap. So, and they also had, and a lot of the staff had to pay out of pocket to make the 20th anniversary to happen. So you can't really, you have to take into consideration of how much it costs for the convention to happen.
All
Now,
right, Chris, I know
here's
you want to say something. Go
I
ahead.
agree. I agree with everything she's saying, and I got a lot to say about this. And she's 100% correct because I've staffed at Seishukan also. I've been to Seishukan. I've been to MomoCon and AWA primarily. It's expensive. These things are not cheap. And if you talk to
Agreed.
any of the head directors for these conventions, they don't, when they go get equipment, they don't buy brand spanking new. They find good equipment used and cheap because it's super, super expensive. And if I remember correctly, when you call the hotel, like Seishukan did one year, they have to give an estimate of, like, let's say, I think like their first year they had like 300 people. Let's say their second year they're estimating they're going to double in size to 600. Well, if they call a hotel by the airport or where they went for this, I think their third year they went to this country club, they got to say, we're going to have 600 people, so we need X amount of rooms. And if all those rooms don't get filled up, Seishukan has to pay the difference for those rooms. Now, if they get those rooms booked and you get then some, then the hotel's happy. But it's very expensive, and it also comes down to the guests also. I don't want to talk. I know about the signing of the guests and all that stuff really well. I don't want to talk too much about it from MomoCon standpoint because I know a lot about it. Because I know Jess runs MomoCon, and if she sees this and I say something the right way but spoiling it about what they're trying to do, I don't want to get in trouble. But like we were talking about, like some of the guests they're trying to get, they were gonna try to get Stan Lee for MomoCon this year. But the problem is Stan Lee has a contract to where if he's premiering at one convention coming up soon, he can't come to another one. So when it comes to the guests too, it is very, very expensive depending on the type of guests you're trying to get, the type of contract they have, and the arrangements you have to make. Like there's certain guests, I can't think of one on the top of my head, that you would want to see at a convention, but the problem is they're too much money, and you have to think, is it worth getting this person, or is it worth saying we're going to get these two people that equal the same amount as one person that people want? The thing is with AWA, they got Japanese guests, but I don't think they're really listening to what the people who whatever phone is going off, I'm going to break it in half.
Oh, hey, Timotheus.
I'm gonna break your phone, and then I'm gonna eat it.
All right.
But it's very, very expensive.
Okay. Um. All right. My next question. Okay. Since we're talking about comparing prices. Um. do you think that the hotels they're choosing, regardless they do give you that anime discount, are the prices worth it between Anime Weekend Atlanta and MomoCon?
I I think it depends on the person. I was more than willing to slap down 40 bucks to go to AWA, which I did. I was just like, hell yeah, let's go. But because they had something that catered to me, it really all depends on the person. If they have something that caters to you, then you're more than willing to go to the convention and not really worry about the price. So, like for me, for AWA this year, I slapped down 40 bucks to go see Homemade Kazoku, and that was probably the best convention I've ever had because I got to see, my favorite band that I probably would have never gotten to see if I didn't get to go. So it really all depends on the person's personal preferences when it comes to conventions, I think. Um, if they don't really have anything that you would want to go see, then you are less likely to go to the convention, I guess. I go to conventions just to go around and cosplay, hang out with friends and stuff like that. I don't really go to panels and stuff. So, panels aren't really my thing unless it's something that I'm just like, oh my gosh, I have to go see this. So, it just really all depends on the person.
Okay, what about you, Chris? What do you think about the prices of the hotels that they give out?
Brianna is wise beyond her years because everything she says I agree with.
Okay.
Price is one thing. Obviously, if AWA Momo Con was like, all right, well, if you want a 1 day pass, it's $100. A lot of people are going to complain about that. So you got to have a reasonable price, but you also have to have a reason for people to come. Like even though to me AWA is always the same, I still always have fun going to hang out with people I haven't seen in a while, maybe going to a panel here or there and just hanging out with people. Because, like, with Brianna said where she was earlier, she doesn't have any friends close by. I have a couple of friends close by, but more or less, a lot of my friends are scattered all across Georgia. So it's not like we'll be like, hey, let's go to the mall in Georgia, and you got someone who lives in like close to the Florida border, and they're driving up here, and then that's like let's say like a 3 4 hour drive just to hang out for a couple hours, just to drive another 3 4 hours home. That's the main reason I go to conventions. But
Okay.
there's also plenty of other reasons too. Like example, if you don't like the cost of a normal con, staff at the convention, you get in for free. They will feed you. All you have to do is put in some time at the convention, whether you want to do security, whether you want to, you know, sit at the dealers and set values, any of that type of stuff. Or if you want to try something different, if you're like a really talented cosplayer, you can sit there and you can talk about, your cosplay design. Or if you're like a really like big YouTuber like Trevor Conroy lives in Georgia, they ask him to come to the convention. So that's something he does. He comes here and he talks about YouTube. So there's plenty of things you can do outside of the
Okay. Well, smaller just left. Well, I think my opinion about like hotel prices. Well, I never been to MomoCon, but I have reserved my hotel room for the all 4 days. And Anime Weekend Atlanta wins by a long shot. I know I'm a person that if I like, I'm cheap, as in for a place to stay. And cause like this year, I'm putting out $500 for 3 nights at MomoCon, and it's not even at the CN Center. It's at one of the Offspring hotels, the Holiday Inn. I'm like, that's a lot of money. And then with AWA, I think the most I spent out of my 5 years was staying at Renaissance, and I spent like $300.
Yep,
So
it runs between 139 to 149, I believe. It depends on the hotel that they're using.
yeah,
I I stay at either at the embassy or the actual con hotel. I have never had any problems with the embassy. It was honestly my favorite hotel. Um, because you get free breakfast and the beds are comfortable and the service is really really great. Now with the Waverly, um, that was I stayed there my first year. And they try really hard. To take care of everyone because there's so many people. And but there's always going to be that one person that's just like, oh, this con sex, blah blah blah. I had a bad experience at the hotel. Okay, that's fine. But at the same time, you have to realize that a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into trying to take care of everyone because there's so many people. Their hotel is basically overbooked. Everyone overbooks that hotel, and so it just I personally enjoy the hotels at AWA more than I did the at MomoCon. Um, because I stayed at the Marriott and I was overwhelmed with how much space there was, how many floors, and just from they were working from the marquee up over to the other hotel that Dragon Con was held at, and it was way too much space. I couldn't handle it. Um, so I personally like AWA better because there's a lot less space and there's a lot less walking because you had to for you to get any food at the marquee you had to go to the other hotel just to go to the food court, and it was a disaster for me. But I'm not bashing MomoCon. I enjoyed it for what it's worth, but at the same time, just the hotels that they're picking is just it's too much for me.
Okay. Well, so somebody just messaged me, asked me about what do y'all guys think about because you have he's joking like you have fat people go to cons, so what do you want? What do you think? Which con has the best food varieties? My experience with Anime Weekend Atlanta, uh, they try their best. I'm not gonna. Because they do try their best when we get there. They do have special discounts for Congoers, like Buckhead's Pizza. Um, I can't remember the name of the bar in the main lobby of the Renaissance. They have special prices for you when you get to
Yeah.
Con. But if you don't want none of that stuff, you have to go. You have to leave the con, lose your parking spot to go to KFC down the road, IHOP, Taco Bell, etc. Just to get stuff. And trust me, I've seen a lot of con goers, especially this year, with the steak and shake. And I went to steak and shake because I just wanted to be a steak sandwich. But the thing about it was like a 3 hour wait, and I was like, forget that. I just go to IHOP. So since y'all two been to MomoCon and Anime Week Atlanta, tell me, we want to know which kind is better for getting food, good
Um,
quality food.
I believe that AWA has a pretty good variety in the whole entire area because you have the food court at the mall right down the street, and you also have PF Chang's, you have the Cheesecake Factory, you have the Chick-fil-A down the street, there's a Kroger down the street, there's all kinds of little places, honestly, and I would gladly lose my parking spot for a place to go eat. Um, I'm trying to think. There's this bar down right across the street from down the street from the embassy. There's really all kinds of little areas for you to go eat. For MomoCon, from my experience, at the marquee, you had a pretty good variety in the same area, so you didn't have to technically leave the hotel. So I did enjoy that. Um, So I mean, it just really all depends on the person, personally. If um if you like having to leave the convention for a little while and then come back, or if you like staying in the same convention area and just going to go eat at the food court down and the other side of the hotel. So I get honestly just believe that it just depends on the person.
Okay, so which one? You have to choose one. They want to know. Anime Weekend Atlanta or MomoCon?
Whoa. I'm more. I personally lean towards AWA because I've been there more than I have MomoCon.
Okay.
So I don't know. That's just me.
All right. What about you, Chris?
Before I tell you
Convenience
that,
food war.
I gotta go back to what we were just talking about because I kind of sidetracked because I was talking about when you staff at conventions or you volunteer to do a panel. I was actually talking about the up cost of a badge. When it comes to a room, if you got the money to spend, go ahead. But at the same time, if you want to save money, the best thing to do is get with a group of friends and split the cost of a hotel room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best thing to do. Now, I'm going to throw you a curveball. Now I'm going to say myself because when I go to a convention, I don't want to waste every single penny I got on food.
Yeah.
I started to bring my own food for like the past 5 years.
That's what I do. I usually bring a lot of my own food, bread, microwavable mac and cheese, things like that.
But I'm choosing myself for food. But at the same time, I still will go out to places because depending on like what's going on, because what Brianna says, we stayed at the the embassy across from AWA. That's the only hotel we stay at because we get free breakfast.
Yes.
But at the same time, while that hotel is no means a far walk, there are times where you're at the convention, you don't feel like walking back, so you will get something at the convention. And I'm going to have to say AWA, just because they have the food court downstairs, and it's not a long walk across the bridge to get to the mall where they have their food court there.
Right.
AWA is MomoCon's in a whole nother hotel, and they are in downtown Atlanta. So then, if you want to, you have to get in your car. If you choose to, drive to another location. If you choose not to walk, and then you got to pay for parking and all that stuff. With AWA being free parking here, free parking there, and like I said, you got the food court downstairs with Chick-fil-A's little booth, Subway, a couple of Chinese restaurants, I think a Japanese restaurant. They have the Maid Cafe like right around the corner from there, unless they moved it. And then you go across a little bridge to go to whatever mall's over there. I can't think of I can't think of what mall it is. And you got thank you. You got Taco Bell, you got Subway, you got KFC, you got all of it there. So AWA wins.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I have two more questions, and then we're gonna do a little vote who wins the war between Anime Weekend Atlanta and MomoCon. All right, my next question: which dealer's room is the best? And this time we'll start with you, Chris.
MomoCon, hands down.
Okay, and why?
Because I think they just changed it, but I actually have a good friend of mine who actually sells stuff at conventions. He's had no problem setting up at Atlanta Anime Day, Nerdicon, SeishuCon, and MomoCon.
Uh-huh.
You know, he always gets it, has no problem. Like I said, I don't remember if it's changed yet or not, but AWA wants you to have a physical location. So he always has trouble setting up a booth at AWA because he doesn't actually have a physical shop yet. But granted, AWA's room is bigger. I prefer MomoCon's better.
Okay.
Especially
All right,
since
Brianna.
Little Koda, he sells a lot of stuff, and Little Kuribo's my hero.
All right, Brianna.
I've never had any issues with AWA dealer's room. They always had everything I wanted, basically. I know a lot of work goes into getting into the dealer's room for you to sell your stuff, and so I really appreciate the effort that they put into to sell their stuff. And so, they've always had at least one thing that I wanted, if anything. Some years they'll have like everything, and I don't have the money for it. um, the only I went to the dealer's room for MomoCon when they were still at Georgia Tech, which was cramped. It was tiny and uncomfortable, and there was just so many people. So, and then the second year that I went, again, it was for every time I go to MomoCon, there's always something disorganized, and it makes me sad because I want to like the convention because it's another anime convention for me to go to. But the two times that I've gone, the dealers' rooms have always been really kind of disorganized and just like they can't separate the artist alley from the dealer's room, and I'm just kind of like I had a hard time figuring out where things were when they were at the Marriott. So it's AWA for me, but
Okay.
I do think that MomoCon has a really good variety though of things.
All right, my final question, then we're gonna do the voting. Okay, now the Saturday night dance, aka the rave. Which one's better if you went? If you didn't go, I understand. Chris.
Seishukan.
Hmm.
Seishukan wins.
Oh, we talking about MomoCon and Anime Weekend
Well,
Atlanta.
don't
Which
get
one?
careful because like, the couple times I've actually tried to get into AWA, the lines are way too long. And no offense to either convention, mostly AWA, I'm not waiting in line, which I did one year for almost 2 hours. And when I got in there, I'm like, this music sucks. I'm not feeling this. MomoCon, I've had no problems getting into, but I still wasn't feeling it. Now, Seishukan, with their second year, being a very small convention, I got in super easily. There was plenty of room to move around and dance. Seishukan wins.
But yeah, but we need which one? Anime Weekend Atlanta or
No,
MomoCon?
Seishukan, you're not
We
making
need.
shit.
I need. The people need to know which one. Which one?
Wait, me?
The peer pressure is too much. AWA.
All right.
Other lines are ridiculously long.
All right, Brianna.
I have never gone to a rave because that is not my thing.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, okay. Now let's. Well, since Timothy is he left, he just texted me saying something happened. Okay. Now it's time to figure out. You know, guys, my viewers, is this an opinion? It's not fact. So don't get mad. All right. So it's time for us to vote. Which one is better?
Yeah.
All right, Chris.
Hold on.
Who wins the war? For Atlanta Anime Con. Anime Weekend Atlanta or MomoCon?
Oh god. No. Momokan.
MomoCon? All right.
Brianna forfeits. I win.
Brianna?
She disappeared. She got summoned somewhere.
I'm sorry. So we're trying to pick between AWA and MomoCon. I've had more bad experiences at MomoCon than I have at AWA, so I have to say AWA.
Oh. And Timothy is not here to break the ice. And I can't vote because I haven't been to MomoCon yet. So guys, yeah, so right now the war is still kind of going. But thank you guys for joining this episode of Nerd Talk. Before we cut off, Brianna, any shout outs you want to give out?
I'm good.
All right, what about you, Chris?
Go to youtube.com/DarthCubeBall. Subscribe to my channel. Listen to me talk nerdy to you about video games.
That's right, subscribe to them. Subscribe. And thanks, guys.
I'm gonna cry. I'm a poet. I didn't even know it.
Thanks, guys, for watching my channel, and don't forget, guys, to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see y'all guys in my next video. Nerd I am out.
Next episode.